Okay, so the Wuthering Waves player feedback survey has recently come out, and with 3.0 right around the corner and 2.7 feeling like a pivotal milestone in Wuthering Waves in terms of story, I wanted to look at what I could find on the JP side for what they are saying that they want improved in Wuthering Waves. So I took to Twitter and did a search for Wuthering Waves and survey and limited it to the posts in just the past week to get the most up-to-date information that I could find. I kept a list of everything that was mentioned, but keep in mind that this is not a definitive list of what all Japanese players as a whole are asking for. Japanese players are typically not very open about what they don't like or what they want more of from games and such. They've already gone through the stuff that Global is going through right now, and they tend to avoid certain conflicts. But with that being said, this is what I could find. First, I want to go through a bunch of the smaller stuff that I saw mentioned in no particular order, but I will try to keep similar ones grouped together. First up, we've got allow button remapping, particularly for echo locking and unlocking. They also want to add a setting to the camera lock to ignore animals in the overworld. On and off switches for resonance chains on characters, and also to remove the L3 and R3 input prompts when using controller. They also want to remove the unnecessary QTEs from story content. This one is a pet peeve of mine particularly, but I only saw it mentioned like once in JP, so I guess I don't mind it nearly as much. They also want to increase the number of echo loadouts too, and they want them to show us all of the character birthdays and other information like height, age, etc. I saw a few calls for events to be held in more locations around the world of Solaris, and also to make the IRL China limited in-game items obtainable on global servers too. There was also one call to have them stop doing closed beta tests because there's no point due to leaks, just to make them open beta tests instead. I don't know how that really helps anything. Maybe someone can help me understand in the comments, but that's what they said. I saw a few calls for us to go above level 80 and also to like upgrade our Solaris world level to get more difficult overworld mobs and such, and also to have more control over leveling materials by prioritizing and limiting which materials get used in the leveling up process. They also wanted to increase the amount of materials farmable from weekly bosses, either by dropping more per battle or allowing for more battles instead of just the 3 times per week. I also saw a couple of calls for holograms to drop materials too for successful clears. They didn't specify, but I think they meant in exchange for wave plates, but not for free, or maybe for free. I don't know. It's their suggestion, not mine. And for the more like whale type players out there, they wanted a reset to the tuners and echo tubes for purchase with Coral after each patch update, and also to add tuners and echo tubes to the monthly pass too. And when leveling up skills, they wanted to be able to auto-synthesize lower rarity items to the higher rarity ones automatically when needed and if available. I also saw a few calls for buffs to Yinlin and Jinshi specifically, as well as many people asking for skins of existing characters and wanting a wider variety of characters with different themes and designs in the future. And there were also plenty of people mentioning improvements to the game optimization, particularly for the PS5 and also for other various bug fixes that would take far too long to cover in this video. And when it comes to changes and improvements made to the game, one asked for more dev openness and that those patch notes also be shown on official social media like Twitter too. One post I saw with a few likes on it said, "The only thing I want to put in the survey is to read the survey," which I thought was pretty funny. Okay, so that's basically all of the small stuff I found. Now I want to go through what I see to be the biggest things that got the most attention and mentions, and I'll try to combine posts when they overlap. One of the biggest things I saw mentioned was that they said 2.7 felt rather empty. And although they thoroughly enjoyed the story, especially as it had past characters show up and interact with each other, they said that once they had finished that, there wasn't much else to do besides the new hologram due to the lack of attention given to overworld replayable content. One solution I saw to this was to make the overworld farming easier and more enjoyable, and you wouldn't be surprised that the way they propose to solve that issue is echoes and substats. This is Narushio 666, no connection to the Narushio you may already be familiar with. They're a pretty prominent voice in the JP Wuthering Waves Twitter sphere, and this is their solution which got a bit of traction. I'm just going to read through their post here, and I'll have it like auto-translated so you guys can follow along. Regarding the lack of content and requests for improvements to the echo system here. Problem. Currently, Wuthering Waves has attractive characters, action, and high-quality open world, but it lacks content that players can enjoy. It's a shame that we're not making most of this wonderful gaming environment. Even when I invite my friends to play, they all say there's nothing to do, and I want to play multiplayer games with everyone more. They want more co-op introduced to the game. And their proposed solution here is when acquiring a sound shell, this is a translation of echo, in a silent zone, a tacit field, or a field hunt in the overworld, you will be able to obtain it with just one substat displayed. So what they're saying here is once you get an echo, the first substat is shown to you, like automatically. You don't have to level it up to level 5 to see what it is. It's just like, it's there, but it's not unlocked. Ideally, the value would also be displayed as well. So they're saying, show us the substat, but don't show us the amount. But ideally, they would like them to show us both the substat and the amount. This change will add more depth to the game and should also help revitalize multiplayer. And the second point here is to add substat change items only available to the unenhanced echo. This is again a mistranslation. More of these than the main stat change items or change modifiers for those who don't want to hunt in the field, those that aren't don't have the time to hunt as much in the overworld. And they have like little like mock-ups here of what they expect, like what they could do or how they can implement it. Like, so once you get the echo, it shows you what the main stat is, what the type is, what the sonata set is, and also what the main stat is as well. And then once you go into the echo tuner menu, then you could use a tuner to unlock the substat. Although, like they said, ideally they would also like to be able to see the substat amount, but not have it unlocked. So his proposal in a nutshell is to be able to see the first substat and ideally the amount also, but not have them unlocked, and also have introduce something to the game to allow substats to be modified as well. Just saying. Also, when it comes to farming echoes in general, I saw plenty of comments about the nightmare tacit fields and the dissatisfaction that these reset daily because it makes it difficult for players who don't have the time to do them during the week due to work or school and want to grind them out on the weekend. They say perhaps instead of a daily limit of once per day, they should have a weekly limit of 7 times per week instead. They also added that they think that these nightmare tacit fields could also be further farmed after that 7 times in exchange for wave plates too, much like the traditional tacit fields. And I think it goes without mentioning that there were also plenty of calls for bulk echo absorption to help with all that as well. And for characters that have been built up, there were plenty of people I saw that called out the lack of content in which to use them, specifically the lack of combat events. One user said, instead of putting time and resources to bring out different minigames each patch, I would rather them focus on refining the existing events that they already have and making them better with each update. And when it comes to the so-called combat event in 2.7, the Vampire Survivors-like game, they said that they shouldn't call it a combat event when it's clearly just a minigame. But that's not because they hate it or anything. I didn't see anyone say that. In fact, I saw calls that they want this game to also be made permanent and also to introduce co-op to it as well, as there's also a lack of co-op in Wuthering Waves 2, so it's like basically a 2-for-1 on that one. To quote them, they say, if you always pull for the latest character, you can't train or use your existing characters. I want improvements to be made immediately. If new characters are released but you can't train them, you can't level them up, then people will end up not pulling for them at all. Neglecting battle events will also lead to people not pulling on the gacha, which will negatively affect the sales. It's a fact that recently the number of players quitting is increasing. I love this game, so I'd like to see it go back to the strategy it had a year after release and move away from the minigame route that it's been taking recently. Another thing they want to see made permanent is the current photo event. This event satisfied both the casual and hardcore players for different reasons. Even before looking for survey suggestions, I cannot stress enough just how much my timeline has been flooded with pictures taken in-game from this event. Japanese players absolutely love this event, not only because of the amazing shots that they are now able to take that they couldn't with the traditional camera function, but also because of the combat practice dummy, which they call a kakashi or scarecrow in Japanese, which allowed them to test out new combos and in different team comps. And yeah, that's about it that I could find just for searching here. That's not everything, I'm sure. There's some other people that said that they filled in the survey, but they didn't say exactly what they put in there. I was very curious. Overall, though, it was mainly tweaks to the game here and there, but the biggest issues remain the lack of combat events, the lack of overworld replayable content, and echo farming issues with the added overwhelming calls to make this photo event permanent. I'll leave the search term I used down below, so feel free to look for yourself if you suspect that I am misrepresenting or leaving anything out. I can't tell you how annoying it is that I put hours of research into these kinds of videos just to have people who don't understand Japanese accuse me of this or that or whatever. But that's a personal thing. It's annoying, but it's something I'll have to deal with, I guess. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because that greatly supports the channel. So until next time, I will see you in the next video. Peace.